I really like modern architecture. Um, so I wanted to do a little vlog about modern architecture. But I like architecture. I like old architecture, and I like modern architecture. I like all types of architecture. I like tall buildings. I like small buildings. I like medium-sized buildings. A lot of people just like um, small residential houses. I actually like skyscrapers the most. Skyscrapers are my favorite type of buildings, and I also really like medium-sized building, like those like 5, 6, 7 story buildings. I think those are really nice too. Um, I just, I just, I, I wish I lived in a skyscraper. This, I wish I lived in a skyscraper, and but I really like the architecture of the apartment complex I live in. I really like that. It's really nice architecture. It's actually a really cheap apartment. It's not an expensive apartment. It's a really cheap apartment. I have roommates and stuff, but um, it, the the it's got some like fake brick and some like fake wood, and it's like painted yellow and different things. It's a really nice architecture. It was built, 20 years ago or so. I'm like doxing myself, but that's okay. You can come and find me if you want to dox me. I don't care. I'm so lonely. I don't care if I dox myself. You can visit me and whoever you are. But I'll dox myself about my building. Um I really like tall buildings, how they can fit so many people inside, and it really means a lot to me. And I like urban landscapes, and um I like how medium-sized buildings. Like I heard in California, they're gonna start to allow like 2 units per residential lot. You can build 2 units per lot, whereas it used to be you can only build 1 unit per lot. And so now in California, you can build two houses on one lot, or two structures, or you could have like two different types of people living on one lot. Whereas reality, they should almost have like 100 people living on one lot. That would be the more economical way of doing it. But 2 people per lot is a good way to do it too. Because if you have 100 people, then some developers might say, "Oh, I'm going to build a skyscraper here." And the only problem with skyscrapers are they're expensive to build, and they're expensive to live in, and most people can't afford to live in a skyscraper, but they can afford to live in a densely populated, like two structures per lot type of deal. And if you think about these pieces of land are so big, they can fit more than one family. You can fit two families or just 2 people or whatever. You can fit more than just one person on these huge lots where these single family homes are, and they've banned anything but single family homes in a lot of these places. Most of the United States, you can only build single family homes. Everything else is illegal to build. Um, so yeah, I just want to talk about how much I like modern architecture, because a lot of people complain, "Oh, modern architecture is so bad. I'm a trad. I'm a traditionalist. I only like things built in the 1790s or the ancient Rome." Yeah, I only like things built in ancient Roman times. Those people are weird. Those people that only like classic architecture. Those people are weird because modern architecture looks prettier. You see, like there's like blue windows, and where you see lots of natural light coming in, and um, I love modern architecture because you can build taller buildings today than you used to be able to build, and they can build that less materials, less expensive materials. They can build it more environmentally friendly. Not that much more environmentally friendly than it used to be, but a little bit more. But really, it's just cheaper. They can build them using less raw materials than they used to 100 years ago. I watched a Vox video about this. The Vox published a video about how why all these buildings seem to look the same with these like rectangular squares on these residential buildings and these commercial buildings. These rectangular squares are everywhere on these buildings. You see rectangular squares, and they did a research into why that is, and there's a that's just the way they build them now because there's like there's different ways. In some ways, it brings down the cost, and they can't make them at the same cost they used to make them 80 years ago because then there wouldn't be enough raw materials to do that because materials cost more now than they used to. Raw materials have gone up in price. It's like there's a sand shortage. There's a sand shortage around the world, and there's not enough sand, and I don't know what they're going to do to fix that problem, but hopefully some entrepreneur will find a way to get past the sand shortage, figure out how to recycle all this crap we have going on, and yeah, figure out how to get past the sand shortage. Um, and there was just a real estate developer that got in trouble in China. I guess he was running a Ponzi scheme or whatever. I don't know what was going on, but he got in trouble. That was the other thing. Yeah, I'm going to talk more about architecture in the future on this channel. I just wanted to mention how I feel about it. I will talk about architecture on this channel. That's one of the things I'll talk about. I'm not going to have editing with flashy pictures everywhere, but I do want to say how much I appreciate modern architecture. And I like old architecture too. I used to like old architecture more than modern architecture. I used to like that like 1920s Art Deco New York style look the best. I like the buildings built in New York around the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s. In some ways I like that. When I was a kid, I liked that architecture the most. And then I started thinking about brutalism. I started thinking Epcot was built with brutalism in mind, and I started thinking when I was a kid, I didn't like brutalism because I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, where everyone is, everything is super brutalist because it was built like a lot of Fort Lauderdale was built like in the 1960s when brutalism was at its peak, and you see brutalism everywhere you go, and I grew up not liking brutalism, not knowing the word for it, but not liking that specific building, that specific form of architecture, not having studied it or researched it. But as I get older, I start to realize, there's actually some logic in brutalism. There's actually that whole Epcot mid 20th century concept of building the city of tomorrow that actually makes a lot of sense. I could actually see a city being built like that and say, you know what, that's actually a beautiful city. When it's got brutalist architecture. Not everything has to be like looks like some sort of country cottage or something. Looks like some sort of pre-colonial or colonial home. Not everything has to look like it's like built from the 19th century. Not everything has to look like it's from like some like fake view of the past that never was. Sometimes you can build things that are futuristic that can be brutal. The future can be a very brutal place, and what's wrong with that? What's wrong with a brutalist future? I'm not saying I'm a fascist. You might think, oh, I'm like a fascist because I like brutalism. No. Brutalist architecture looks fascist to some. But to me, it doesn't look fascist. It makes me think of Epcot. It makes me think of the world of tomorrow. It makes me think of what the future could be if we open our minds and build something better than what we have today, and build a vision of the city of tomorrow that actually incorporates a lot of different viewpoints of what the future could be. Not everything has to look like a cottage or some sort of like farmhouse. Everybody wants things to look like a farmhouse. I don't want it to look like a farmhouse. That's just my taste in architecture. I like brutalism. I like skyscrapers. I like modern architecture. I like historical architecture. But I don't believe historical architecture should be preserved as much as it has been because that keeps poor people from affording to live in neighborhoods. And I do not think you should prevent poor people from living in neighborhoods by maintaining this stupid historical architecture. I love historical architecture. I love historical architecture. However, building housing so that people can live there should be more important than preserving historical architecture. As much as I love historical architecture, I'm getting to the point in my life I prefer modern architecture over historical architecture because more people could fit into modern architecture than could fit into historical architecture. That's just me. That's just what I believe in. That's what I believe in. But I really like old architecture. I really like it. I'm when I was a kid, I preferred historical architecture. I thought everything should be preserved. Everything should be kept exactly like it was forever. And now would prefer modern architecture. I prefer them to build things bigger and better and more encompassing and more so more people could live there and more people could afford to live there and more less people would be homeless. And I prefer modern architecture over historical architecture. That's just me. I think the future could be better than tomorrow if we want it to be. If we want it to be, the future could be better than tomorrow. That's what I think. That's what I think. So that's my vlog about architecture. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about architecture? Do you prefer modern architecture or do you prefer historical architecture? Let me know in the comments below. Please subscribe to this channel to be part of the community. Please like the video. It really helps out the channel a lot. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.